My name is Brehm, and today I'm going to talk about the psychology behind the lyrics for my song Until the Sun, which is the second single that released from my upcoming solo album, The Dawn is Still Dark. And I'm going to talk about anxiety, insomnia, and panic attacks. That's what the song is about, all those three things combined. And it all has to do with this particular experience that I had about 5 years ago now. And it was a big turning point for me with my mental health. So I'm going to talk about some pretty heavy things, and disclaimer, I am not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not here to give you medical advice or advice about prescription medications or how you should go about treating a mental disorder. I just want to share my experience and what I personally have been through, which led to writing this song Until the Sun, which is one of my favorite songs that I have ever written now. So it's kind of a curse and a blessing, I guess. So a little backstory. I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and panic disorder when I was 21, so that was 10 years ago. I think that I had generalized anxiety much earlier than that, but it was never diagnosed, and I think it just eventually manifested into panic attacks by the time I was an adult. And I believe that this is because my nervous system was hypervigilant a lot of the time, and so I was in the fight or flight mode quite a lot, and that releases a lot of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And I think just over time of that compounding and me being so young, not really understanding it, and I think I kind of just thought like that's just who I am. I thought that was just like my personality, but that's not the case. Anyways, I went to a psychiatrist after I got my first couple of panic attacks, because they were very scary and severe, and especially the very first one I called 911, and I didn't know what was happening to me. So, panic attacks have a wide range of symptoms, anywhere from feeling like you can't get oxygen to your heart, you feeling like you're going to have a heart attack. Your limbs can go numb. You just kind of have this overall feeling of doom, like something really bad is going to happen. And so that was happening to me multiple times a day in the beginning, and they just felt, really out of the blue. And of course, it's natural. Everyone has some anxiety, but of course, if the anxiety level is reaching a point where it's interfering with your life, that's where it enters the disorder category. That's when you should seek professional help. And I believe now that what I should have done at age 21 is go right to therapy and right to different methods of dealing with it, like lifestyle changes. And I'll go through a few of the tips that I have learned over the years and the things that I do now without medication. But when I was 21, I was prescribed a benzodiazepine, which is a very, very powerful drug, and I believe that it's prescribed less and less now. I think that doctors are realizing kind of how dangerous it is, and I think especially with the stronger benzos like lorazepam, they're only administered in a hospital setting. So So that says something about benzodiazepines. But I was taking one for about 5 years for severe anxiety and panic attacks. And, I think for a while, it worked. But it definitely wasn't, in my opinion, a healthy way to deal with my issues. And one of the only regrets I have, I think, is going on this medication for 5 years. So basically, there's a little bit of the backstory. And when I was, about 5 years later, when I was 26, I finally decided that I didn't want to take this medication anymore. And I started going and seeing a psychologist, and I started to watch YouTube videos about managing anxiety and reading books about anxiety, and just kind of seeking out other routes and developing other skills. So better late than never. I'm glad that I did that. But I knew that I had to get off this medication, and I did slowly wean off of it. So I had to slowly cut down on the amount that I was taking. And I reached the end of it, and it took a couple months to get off of it, actually. And what's ironic about this medication is that it's prescribed to treat panic attacks, but one of the side effects is more panic attacks, especially when you're lowering the dose. So I was starting to get those severe panic attacks again when I was going off of it. Oops. Camera needs to follow my face. So I spent a couple months getting completely off this medication, and I thought I was in the clear. And I went to the UK for to do some work, and I had a bunch of studio sessions planned. I had a show that I was going to sing at, and the schedule was a little bit hectic and stressful, and I didn't give myself enough time to adjust to the jet lag, the time difference between Colorado and London. So anyways, I thought I had been through the withdrawal process and didn't think I'd have any additional severe problems with it. I think I was naive to think that, or I don't know. I think that I was just a little bit too eager to get to work. I was also a bit of a workaholic, I think, during that time of my life. So work was a bit of an escape for me. And so I got to the UK, and basically it kind of started happening right away. I wasn't able to sleep, and that went on for 5 days. So that was pretty intense, to say the least. I've never gone that long not being able to sleep, but I think it was it wasn't just the tail end of the withdrawal, which perhaps can be the most intense part. When you don't have like a little bit of the medication to take anymore, you're just completely done with it, and so you don't really have like anything to fall back on. And so I was also having panic attacks, and I wasn't adjusting to the jet lag, and I was really stressed out about work. And so basically I ended up being hospitalized while I was there. And so it was just this whole perfect storm, but it was really scary, especially the no sleep part, I think, because I started to have some really strange symptoms from that, and I couldn't really tell the difference between like the panic symptoms versus the insomnia symptoms. So that was really, really strange to experience. So now I'll finally kind of get into where the song Until the Sun comes in and the lyrics and how this all relates. So when I was trying to sleep during those 5 days, so just another thing I should mention, I wrote this song months later after I had recovered, by the way, and I did successfully withdraw from the medication, and I was okay in the end. But yeah, and I got this song out of the experience. But so the first verse is, every minute was an hour. I told myself, in a moment you'll depart. So when I was going through this experience of not sleeping and panicking, it really felt like time was slowing down extremely, almost like perhaps how it feels like if you take a hallucinogenic drug like acid or shrooms. And so yeah, every minute just kind of was stretching on, and I felt like I was going to die, basically. This is why this is my dark album. I could see into the mind. I told myself, move yourself into the heart. That's the next line of the first verse. So I was really in my mind when this was going on. I was kind of spiraling into the panic. I was even having like audio hallucinations. I could just feel every symptom so intensely from what was happening, and I just remember laying there in this little bed and breakfast in the countryside and just praying and like telling myself to move into my body instead of being in this continuous downward spiral. Like I knew I was in trouble. And I think at the end of the 5 days when I finally got a little bit of sleep was after I had just kind of told myself over and over to move into my heart space. Perhaps that can be a way to help, maybe that helps get you out of a panic attack. I don't know, but it was kind of like a spiritual feeling almost. And so I finally got enough sleep, a little bit to get myself to the airport, and I went home. But the main message of the song is in the chorus where I say, until the sun comes up and over the horizon, the sun will bring me to life and I will find my way home. That was, again, me just laying there, just kind of being, looking forward to when I could finally sleep and see the next day and seeing the sunrise. So the next verse is, I could hear a voice above and I was told, in a moment you will fly. So that was the audio hallucinations, and also just my kind of like the voice in your head that you kind of hear all day long. Like it was just it was that panic, and it was just telling me like, in a moment you will fly. Again, this is like really, really dark. These are like the darkest lyrics I've ever written. In a moment you will fly, like as in like you will pass away and become an angel. It's pretty intense. I could feel myself begin to fall apart in a prison of the mind. Again, I think it's just driving that message home. Not sleeping that long and having that much panic and just feeling the withdrawal symptoms again, and the symptoms from not sleeping. I really felt like I was just falling apart, like my organs were almost shutting down. But that could have just been purely the panic. But again, like if you don't sleep, like that's for that long, it's really, I don't know what happens eventually, but I never have experienced that since, and I never want to experience it again. So those of you who deal with insomnia at that level on a regular basis, I truly feel for you. It is like really one of the scariest feelings I've ever had, and I've had like hundreds of panic attacks in my life. So yeah, so the bridge let's go back to the lyrics. The bridge is really where the message really drives through. When I sing what I would give to have a nightmare, when will this lullaby end? So I rather would have had a nightmare than to be in that lullaby being the panic and the withdrawal and everything that was causing me to not sleep. Though a lullaby obviously is typically, what helps you fall asleep, but it was like this, I'm kind of artistically expressing it in the opposite way, where I'm saying, it was actually this drawn out lullaby, this dark lullaby of all this stuff going on. So yeah, so basically that's it. And I don't want to advise anyone to not take medication. Obviously it is necessary in many situations. I think even for me, like when I first started getting panic attacks, I think I did need to be on medication for me to then move into other things like counseling and lifestyle changes. I just kind of had a drawn out process of that transition, unfortunately. I wish that I hadn't taken that medication for that long. I almost felt like I realized I had been doing like a hard drug for years, but it's just something that I accepted because it worked, and I was able to get about my day and my life, and working on my music career, and but I think it was creeping up on me, like it was like a shadow that followed me around, and it was just slowly getting bigger, and eventually it was gonna happen. It couldn't go on forever like that. So I think eventually you build a tolerance. Your brain builds a tolerance to the chemicals, and eventually it just, I think, well, it's just not sustainable in the way that other approaches are. So some other things that I do now to maintain a healthier level of anxiety is going to therapy, seeing a licensed psychologist, watching YouTube videos from psychologists. There's actually a lot of psychologists who have YouTube channels, and just kind of, instead of just putting like a Band-Aid over it, which is kind of how I view like taking that medication, was just kind of putting a Band-Aid over the issue. It wasn't getting to the root of the issue, like getting deep into the issues and trying to figure out like, why is this even happening in the first place? That's really important to really understand like your past trauma and how you're coping with that, and just taking a look at perhaps like the relationships in your life that you're attracting, and the lifestyle choices that you're making. So I definitely, started doing more meditation and yoga. Just going for long walks is really good for the brain, and calming the nervous system down. Listening to bilateral music is great for calming down anxiety. I get really anxious when I fly on airplanes, for example, so I just listen to bilateral music on my headphones, and that really helps kind of calm everything down. You can watch breathing visualizers, so the breath is very important. I think also just putting your mental health first, like making that a priority in your life, which is something I wasn't doing for a while. Like I was putting work, I think, before just taking care of myself. And yeah, I mean, the list could go on. There's a lot of things, like there's the obvious things like eating a healthy, balanced diet. Like I said, along with yoga and walking, like getting exercise, having healthy relationships in your life. I mean, there's so many different things that can kind of naturally help you to keep a low a low level of anxiety. So perhaps I'll do another vlog in the near future where I go into detail about those things, because it's been like a huge help to me, and I think it's kind of transformed my life in a way, like being able to naturally combat anxiety. And I still do get panic attacks sometimes, but it's not nearly as bad as it was. And again, like the more tools you have to combat it, like the better, like the more, like the different angles you can take. Like it's better than just, in my opinion, just taking a medication and going about your day. Maybe you do need medication too, but perhaps then you also make sure you do yoga every day and go see a licensed counselor. So yeah, so those are just a few of my ideas about what is a better approach to all of this. Like if you have generalized anxiety disorder, if you have panic disorder, there's so many resources available. So I urge you to do your own research and find what's best for you. So I hope that this was helpful in any way, and perhaps gives you a bit more insight into my song Until the Sun, if you really like the song, and into my album scope, because and anxiety and these kind of topics are a big part of my album. So yeah, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.